Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Telling Tales. Here we tell atmospheric stories together through the medium of tabletop role-playing games. It's Monday night, which means we're playing Vaesen, Mythic Britain and Ireland, probably the final episode of this arc, I think. If you haven't watched it before, it's a sort of Victorian folk horror, folklore storytelling. We're having a lot of fun with it. But before we start, promo stuff. So below the video, links to YouTube if you're watching on Twitch, or Twitch if you're watching on YouTube, our social media, our Discord, which you should join and come and chat with us, and also our Patreon. So if you like what we do on the channel, you can support us there. Other things that we do on the channel: Wednesday nights are Simba Room. Thursday nights, I think, yes, still ongoing. The Cincinnati Chronicles. No. Finished? Not on this week. It's not on this week anyway. I'll come back to you. But on Sunday, we are again trying for me to run my Bat Out of Hell game that I have come up with based around the works of Meatloaf and Jim Steinman. So yes, Cincinnati Chronicles is on this week. Okay, cool. Thank you. On Thursday night. But yes, Bat Out of Hell on Sunday. So please come and join us for that. It's going to be fun if you like Meatloaf, or dreadful if you like Meatloaf. Hopefully I've done it justice. Anyway, loads of stuff there. Let's get into the actual game. Let's do some recaps of last week. There's been a lot going on. So let's bring on John, who plays B.
Hello.
Hey, John. So the session before ended with you as a group expertly dispatching a sea serpent. You certainly dispatched the sea serpent, you think. You did. But
yeah.
you expertly...
I mean, I feel like where explosives are involved, if you survive, you have to use the term expertly. Because if you weren't an expert, you'd have blown yourself up.
Especially in 18,
yes,
where it's So then you were at the end of that last session. Before last session, you were exiting the tunnel onto the river, and there were lots of people who had presumably been attracted by an explosion.
Yes, and we were all slightly panicking and trying to figure out how we were going to explain this. When a couple of us noticed like a weird shimmering in the air, like a kind of like a heat wave thing in my head, at least, surrounding the boat, and someone realized that the people on the shoreline were staring at the exit even after we had left the exit, and were apparently not looking at us. So through some unexplained miracle, we seem to have gone beyond notice. Then we flashed back to a few hours before, when B had knocked on the door to the fairy's cupboard and said, "Hey, maybe you should help us. Mosling will like it."
And he might speak to you, I think is what you said.
Yes.
Yeah.
Keyword might. So we I could see Justin burying his face in his hands as I said that. So we came ashore further down the river, where there was no one around, and scarpered into the night back to Rose House.
Lovely, thank you. Steve, who plays Henry, if we could bring Steve on.
Hello.
Henry went for a nice unwind in the backyard of Rose House.
Yeah, well, there was some sort of, there was a certain amount of unwinding prior to that, with alcohol flowing fairly liberally between the sailors and Hux. But yeah, so Henry had suffered a pretty near-death experience in the sewer tunnels, and was kind of coming to terms with that, and the fact that the captain had died during our so-called expert plan, which really wasn't sitting happily with him. So he sort of went out into the courtyard and was kind of feeling drained and worn and rather put upon by it all, and whether he knew what he was doing. He was out there staring up at the full moon, and then heard something in the bushes. It wasn't a bird or a hedgehog, which would have been adorable. It was a rather low and menacing growl.
Maybe it was a bird or a hedgehog. You didn't see it, so.
Do hedgehogs growl? I know they make strange noises. So initially Henry was all for new spirit of bravery, and having being done with the whole stupid thing, was about to confront it. But there was just something about the tone of this low growl that caused Henry to think twice. So he ran off back inside. He did notice, though, as peering through a window into the darkness, that the shape this time, whereas previously Henry has been sort of haunted by a figure watching him, a tall figure watching him, this time it did look animal shaped, as I recall. So there we are.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Let's bring on Hooks. Sam, who plays Hooks, even. Worlds are blending. Hey, Sam.
Hello. Am I Hux or am I Sam? Who knows?
Yeah. So you drank through the night with the sailors, and then the next day, while they were still passed out, you guys tried to come up with a plan for what to do?
Yeah, so I think we all recovered overnight in various ways. Some folks went earlier, some folks went later. I stayed up all night. Well, I definitely fell asleep at some point, but we all basically collapsed blind drunk. There were various kind of, we kind of sung songs to the captain and things like that. There were various bits of condition recovery, I think, for folks overnight as well. And then next morning, before the sailors left, there was a bit of chat about, recompense for their part in it. And also we were wondering about what we should do for the family of the captain who helped us out, who passed away. And they basically agreed that they were going to handle it. And we agreed that, we'll help fund or whatever as well as a token part of that. I think they were, I don't know if happy would be the word I'd use, but comfortable with that at the very least. So I think the sailors are on their way at that point, at some point anyway, leaving rather a mess in our sitting room. But I think that's justified. And then we also had a bit of almost a kerfuffle in the library, discussing what we were going to do about this fairy, because, well, it's safe to say there's a bit of a disagreement in approaches. I don't think Constance was very happy with what B had decided to do, because it came out. We had to have a discussion about what had happened when we left the sewers. What had let us get out, and B admitted that she had a conversation with a fairy and asked for its help. The fairy that Constance has been trying to effectively destroy. So there's a bit of a difference of approaches. As aforementioned, B has promised Mosling Forcemark will talk to said fairy. Gale was very quiet on the whole affair, so I'm curious to see. Might. I'm curious to see what his opinion on this is going to be, but we'll find out in time, I'm sure.
He was so quiet; it was almost like he wasn't there at all.
Almost. Clearly, he was just deep in thought.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Sam. And let's bring on Inga, who plays Constance. Hey, Inga.
Hey. I just want, for the record, you say Constance is keen to destroy this fairy, like she's like egging for more dynamite or something, which is not quite the case.
Destroy with holy water, a sort of righteous destroying.
Explosively argumentative rather than explosive TNT or whatever. But in any case, things calmed down a little bit after that because Lady Spence turned up. That was nice. So she's come along to pick up Gladys to take her back to Bodmo, and we kind of starting to say our goodbyes. I guess I think we'd meet up with Lady Spence for dinner later on in the day. She's gone out for breakfast for now, but kind of had a bit of chat about I guess handing Gladys over into Lady Spence's care, and they've built a little chapel and little consecrated space in Lady Spence's house, and Reverend Williams is on board to have a helper around the church and stuff. So we'll maybe go visit sometime, but Gladys seems to be doing well and is moving on to phase 2 on recovery and just flying the nest.
Yeah. Lovely, thanks. So let's bring on Justin, who has moved heaven and earth to be here this evening. Thanks,
Something
Justin.
like that.
And we didn't do XP at the end of last session, so I'll dish some XP out. Again, this question: did you participate in the session? I'm not going to
No.
exclude Justin because that seems really mean. Although I think Steve is going to get an extra XP potentially for confronting a Vaesen, whereas nobody else did. Nobody else did. They
Never asked for help. We could have confronted it with you. Oh.
You haven't identified a previously unknown Vaesen. Steve was also affected by his dark secret. I don't think anybody else was this session. No. Did you take risks to protect other people? I don't think anybody did. Have you learned anything? Would you consider you learned anything last session?
I mean, we learned about the power that the fairy had because we found that out through the session, didn't we?
Found about the trails of our
We learned some things about B.
True. Yeah.
We learnt that Gladys had never expected to join the nunnery.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy. If you guys think
we learn that?
then I'm fine with that. That's fine. You didn't develop anything in the headquarters, and I don't think anybody performed an extraordinary action. So 2 for everyone apart from Steve, who gets 4.
Nice.
You know, Steve, it's almost like you're incentivized to keep this wolfman hunting you, just never quite catching you, to get all the XP. Metagame it.
I'm sure there's nothing that could possibly go wrong with that strategy.
It's almost like that thing of there's a snail chasing after you, and if it touches you, you die, but you get $1 million. That whole thing, yeah. Anyway, so it's the mid-morning. Lady Spencer's taken herself out and said that she was going to try and find somewhere that's not coated in smog to go for a walk, and I think Hux had suggested a park or 2 to her. So the day is yours.
So at this point, I think we'd all gathered back down in the kind of kitchen area by the door, haven't we, for Lady Spence? So presumably it's just us and then Hawkins in the room, and that's it now. There's no one else here, right?
Yeah, Hawkins actually comes past you sort of uncomfortably laden with bottles from the sitting room. Uncomfortably laden, but like expertly balanced. You know, those things are not moving anywhere. Like they're not even clinking as he moves. It's kind of weird, actually. And he's just he's on his way with those.
I suppose
Gladys is also in the house still.
But she's not in the room with us now.
She went to go pack and start packing things, I think, didn't she? Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. I suppose Hux. Go on.
B was off setting traps in the courtyard. I remembered actually that perhaps before the whole courtyard gets set up and primed, I might pop out to see if I can find any tracks or clues or signs of the presence of this thing from last night, just as a thing to do.
Cool. Justin?
As a reminder, how much has Bonneville shared with the rest of us what he knows about this creature?
Well, Bonneville's roles have been pretty crap in terms of library use regarding this creature. So I think we all know the same thing.
Cool. You know how Monster was spending a lot of time last session in the library? Can I make a library roll for that, for werewolf research?
Yes, sure. Yeah, please.
Now, not having my character sheet, I'm going to guess how many learning dice I have, but I'm pretty sure I've got
18 skill points.
I
think
did
pretty
want
sure I'm
to
rolling
catch Bonneville
8 or
on his way
9
out
dice.
as well. If I can do that in a sec.
So I think
But
the
just
things we've
before you're,
known
like,
so far.
Outside.
Sure, yeah. We know that silver is bad for it.
I think you know about the moon. I think you did read something about the moon.
I think you know about the moon.
I got 1 success. So for my werewolf learning.
Cool. Did you add 2 dice for your? Is it 2 dice for your book collection? I'm happy for you to roll the extra that grants you.
Still 1 success.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you did know about the moon, Steve, because there have been a couple of references, and I feel like Henry reacted to them, so I feel like you must have known.
Yeah, I think we did find
I
out.
wasn't sure if it was the book. I thought it was that you'd like started to cotton it together because you'd started spotting it, maybe. But I might be misremembering.
There was definitely a roll based on a newspaper date or something in the newspaper where, because I realised that it wasn't just full moons that were the trigger.
Yeah.
Because when I was attacked initially, it wasn't a full moon, I don't think. Anyway, so moons and silver, but I don't think we've had a huge amount else.
I think we've seen the word werewolf, but that was about it. Like, so I think we've got the name werewolf as an option, but maybe not like a definite.
Okay. Justin, you grab onto a little bit of information that is further about silver with the wolf.
Right.
And the story that you read, again, it's like a folk tale, which is within the library. The use of silver needs to be neck or heart on
or heart. Fantastic.
On the beast, yes.
Do we know enough about these creatures to understand that they are transforming beasts, like the metagame knowledge of what a werewolf is, or do we still kind of think it's basically a wolf that sometimes looks weird?
No, I think you've got that from the few stories that you've picked up. I think you're aware that it's like a human transformation.
Okay. Then I'll
but
share.
You don't yet have the method of transference of that, or whether somebody is born with it, or anything like that. You don't have that yet.
Then I am going to share this information with Bonneville and posit this thing's come to our home. It must either have tracked us, which I think could be difficult, maybe, or it might be someone who knows where we live. Otherwise, how is it going to locate where we are? Perhaps this is someone we've met before or you've met before who knows about the society, or perhaps not.
Potentially, you see, I can't quite recall clearly. I did see someone at the train station back when we were travelling to that first mystery, but I can't say for certain whether it was the same shape.
Well, if it knows where we live, it's either following you by smell or following us by smell, or it knows where we live somehow.
Yeah. Could be either. Could be both. Well, certainly it knows where we are now. It's the first time it's shown itself here.
Steve, sorry, you were going to go out to the courtyard and look for evidence of.
I was. Was Constance?
Yeah, I just want. I'm not gonna follow you, but I just wanted to catch you maybe on the way out, just in the corridor or something, and just to say, Mr. Bonneville, I want to apologise for things getting a little heated earlier. I just wanted to reassure you that I'm really not gung-ho on having an overly violent approach to everything all the time. And I know the sea serpent was it's a bit of a shocking experience, and it left us all a bit shaken. I confess I'm a little frustrated with this fairy situation because we tried the holy approach, the godly approach, the ritual, and it didn't work. And I just wanted to assure you that violence is not my instinct. I just want to ensure that we're doing everything we can.
No, I should apologise myself. am feeling somewhat stressed at the moment. The events in the tunnels were, well, unpleasant is not the word. So, yes, I'm sorry for my brusqueness as well. We need to work together. Yes, I'm sorry for my part, and I hope we can find a solution that is amenable to everybody and does the
I agree,
least
and
damage.
there's no need for you to apologise, Mr. Lonville. I think it was very, very awful experience in the tunnels, and then this thing last night again as well, following you right afterwards. It's just, it really is awful. I don't know if I can do much in terms of the helping with traps and things, but if there's anything else that you wanted to do to try and resolve this situation, I can see if there's anything else in the books. I think Muslin's probably done what we can there. I don't know. If there's anything I can do to help.
Well, thank you. I don't think we've found all we need to know. I think I still think there's information out there, but as to where we can look for it, I'm not sure. But yes, any assistance is greatly appreciated. Thank you.
I'll leave him be and head back into the library.
And I'll head outside to find B, and I'll kind of wait carefully and not tramp around. I don't know where the traps are yet, so I'll just sort of call over. B, I realised I hadn't checked to see whether there had been any signs of this creature. I thought perhaps it would be a good idea to do that before we go too much further.
I agree. That's why I haven't started yet. I was
that's good.
hoping you could point out where you saw it.
It was over there by the railings in the hedge.
Mechanically, can whichever of you has a better investigation make an investigation roll, and the other, and you add a dice for having an assist. So whichever of you has the better.
Mine is 8.
Mine is also 8, but I do have a magnifying glass, which might add +2 if it's appropriate.
Sure. Yeah. So you'll be rolling 11 dice, I think.
Wow.
Which means -1 success.
Yeah,
bound to fail. That's it.
Yeah, 11 dice. My God.
That's right. It is +1, isn't it, for an assist, not +2? Because otherwise you might get 12.
That seems, I don't know. It seems right, but
Feel free to roll 11, Stephen, if you need an extra one. I'll
4, 6, 8, 10, 11. Right. That was 2 successes.
You don't currently have an advantage as well, do you, or anything like that?
I don't believe I do. No, not.
Yep. Assisting is a +1 with a maximum of +3.
I just turned to the exact same thing at the same time as you. So 2 successes, Steve. Okay. Yep. You're looking around. I assume you're mostly checking where you saw it.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's some. The hedges here are reasonably deep. So you can kind of reach in, and you see that a bunch of the sort of small branches in this bit and the leaves are all kind of pressed back. So there's obviously been, it's obviously been in here. And then behind that is the sort of iron railings with the spikes on the top. And you notice a bit of blood on top of one of the spikes. Okay. And you kind of follow that to its natural conclusion by sort of kind of in the hedge at this point. And, there's the sort of alley out the back of the house is past the iron railings. And what you find is that actually who or whatever this thing was has obviously done itself quite a damage jumping over this fence, and it's caught itself on the spike on the iron railing. And there is actually a section of like a small section of flesh on the floor. Are you reaching and picking it up to pull it through? It looks like skin rather than an animal's hide.
Yes, if I can sort of fish it out with a pen or a pencil or some other sort of
Sure.
I'll try
okay.
to secure that. And
so you get it through, and it's a section. I mean, it's not a circle, but it's kind of the equivalent area of, say, a 5p piece. And you notice that actually this bit of skin is tattooed. So you don't know what the tattoo is. It's far too small for you to be able to figure that out. But there's a few things that go off in your brain at this point, one of which is you don't think that it was a human that jumped over the fence. Maybe this is from maybe somebody else also climbed over the fence last night. You don't know. The blood does look reasonably fresh. I mean, it's dry. It's dried, but it's not like dark red for it to be a very old stain. So you think that, and you also realize that somebody is now going to have a scar in the middle of a tattoo somewhere on their body.
Well, that's something, isn't it? That's a fairly key bit of information. Excellent. Well, I'll show this to B, and it's, well, obviously it's tattoo. Well, yes, nobody goes around tattooing wolves, I hope. So
not bald wolves.
So this is fascinating. It seems to be the creature seems to have caught itself on the spike up there and left a bit of its skin behind. But it's look, it seems it's got part of a tattoo on it.
You didn't say it looked human.
It wasn't. Not last night. The thing I saw jump out of the bushes was definitely animal in nature.
All right. That puts further evidence to some kind of shapeshifter then.
I mean, I realise it could be a coincidence, but I don't know.
Could be.
It seems unlikely.
One of the sailors, maybe.
I don't believe they... did they come out here? I don't think I saw them in the courtyard.
Sure, we would have heard them.
The iron railings are also about 7 foot, so in their state, you really don't think
not even
a lot more blood.
Not even a drunk sailor. What you're talking about?
Hux wasn't giving them a leg up or something.
Human pyramid of sailors. One of them's just skewered on the top.
If they had got up there, then yes, they almost certainly would have been injured. But it's more likely that they've got injured before they got there than
Well, it's encouraging that the railings seem to do something for keeping things out.
And I guess it can be injured. Right, I guess I'll leave you to it then, unless there's anything you need.
Nothing I can think of. Might be worth maybe mentioning. I don't know. There's not many people go walking around with tattoos. Maybe Hux might know someone. Back alley tattooist. Sailors. Gangsters. Ne'er-do-wells. I don't know.
It's worth a shot, I suppose.
In the meantime, I'll do what I can out here.
Thank you. And I'll go back inside.
Cool.
I just wanted to ask John, what sort of traps are you setting? I'm just kind of curious.
I was mostly just thinking of like snares in the bushes. So not something that would, like, I'm not planning on putting down bear traps because getting those would be difficult, but just something so that if someone landed in it, we'd know. And then if they landed in it and then tried to run away, it would take them, like, it would inconvenience them. I'm now thinking if I can like do some sort of rigging on the railings to make them harder to get out of. I can't think of anything. You are muted, Johnny.
Do you want to make me a roll on something? What would we?
That's what would you? Close combat.
I would say it's probably going to have to be either. It's going to be a logic skill, right?
Yeah. Oh, let me check because the hunter talent that I haven't taken is actual trapping. So let me see what that uses. Oh no, that's not that. Never mind.
I'm happy for you to either use investigation or learning. So either you're sort of investigating the area and thinking, therefore, I can do this by spotting things that are there to rig things up to, or learning to say that you've picked stuff up from whichever of those you want.
I'm going to go for investigation, and I have remembered that I'm also not doing super well this morning mentally, so I'm rolling with a penalty.
Okay.
Nothing.
Okay.
3 ones.
Yeah, okay. I think in your head you've made a mental note that maybe you'll return to this and do a bit more, but for the moment you've got the things down that you planned to when you came out here, so you can make some, further thoughts on what else you can do.
Awesome.
So, am I right in thinking that leaves me and Gail in the kind of pantry kitchen area? Because Constance went to the library, you two went outside.
Yeah. If you are both staying there, yeah.
Yeah, for a moment at least. Then I will, assuming Gail doesn't dash off to do something else, I will kind of just settle down and be like, so, Gail, how are you feeling this morning?
Fine. It was very difficult leaving so late last night to get back to mine, so I didn't sleep here. But evidently, I managed to escape in the wee morning and come back with crack of dawn so that I could avoid spending another night with that thing.
Yeah, well, I imagine you're not best pleased about B's little promise.
Well, I thought it over. I think that really it's B's problem. I'm no part of this contract, and if B wants to go making deals with fairies that can't be honoured, then that really is their problem. I suggest maybe that B uses this as an opportunity to get one over on the fairy. Maybe that angle will work, but otherwise,
Fair enough. I agree. It's not your problem, to be honest. I certainly don't want to talk to the damn thing very much anymore. Still, was pretty handy what it did. Got us out of a right problem.
Ah, well. Breakfast, like.
Oh, gosh. Are you going to tell B that then?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
I look around, see if this fairy is anywhere in the room.
I haven't seen it again. Still keeping an eye out. I guess hopefully we can trick it out then.
Let's hope so.
I will also settle down to breakfast and mention it no more.
Cool. Is everyone sort of reconvening?
Sure.
Hawkins brings drinks through, and if you go, are you going into the area where you were with the sailors last night? The sort of sitting room.
If it's presentable again. If the
completely, yes,
wow,
like they were never there.
sofas have been cleaned.
Are you starting to make us, suspect that Hawkins is some sort of strange cleaning Vaesen?
I've been suspecting that for a while. But...
Don't even think that in Constance's presence. Oh.
Yes, he brings tea in and disappears off again.
Well, I've put a few snares down in the backyard. It should at least mean that anyone who gets in there makes a loud noise. I tried to think of a way of adding something to the railings. I had to keep someone out or keep someone in, but I can't not stay. I'll come back to that if I can.
We did find this though, and I will sort of present. Probably, we're at breakfast, isn't it? I'll sort of, I won't shove it right under people's noses. Leave it on the sideboard or something. I'll put it on a small glass slide or some sort of thing to keep it safe. It looks like a patch of, well, I presume human skin. There seems to be a tattoo on it. I found that where the creature jumped over the railings last night. Well.
Were any of the sailors missing? Sailors and tattoos go together like... Insert something in Moslingish here. Cheese and sherry.
They all left this morning, didn't they? Yeah. They did leave this morning, didn't they?
Yeah.
I don't.
None of us dropped a scrap of the captain that landed on us, did we?
That earns a glare.
There was blood on the railings as well, so unless we splattered him, I think someone else brought it.
And do you know are there any tattooed individuals in your past, Bonneville? Any cases of sailors or criminals or people who might be out to get you? I hear that these prisoners get tattooed with all kinds of things, symbols in these dark cells. Terrible business.
I mean, I'll cast my mind back and see whether there's a potential criminal that I've inconvenienced.
Hux can tell you all about it, I'm sure.
Those stories are greatly exaggerated.
I mean, you must have a fair few tattoos from your time in the what do they call it?
I'm staring at you.
The block, the bars.
I got one.
Steve, you can think of a few people that you've sort of been responsible for ultimately responsible for their arrest, who had tattoos. You think that most of them, I imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, but I imagine a lot of the time these people don't necessarily know that Henry has been involved.
Yeah.
Because you'll collect evidence covertly and then hand it over.
Yeah.
So you've got a list of probably 10 people that you know have at least one tattoo that you have been responsible for their ultimate arrest. None of them jump out at you at this particular moment specifically as somebody who would follow you, and but equally you know that there's something weird going on. You don't know what effect that might have on somebody, and so it's kind of difficult for you to say with any certainty. But you think if everything were even and there was no like wolfiness involved, you don't necessarily think any of these people would be out there following you and intimidating you.
Yeah.
Are you implying that Bonneville never did the old parlor detective? I have gathered you all here today.
One more
Shtick.
thing.
Isn't that right, monsieur?
I mean, he might. Steve, has Henry done that?
It's probably not that showy. Not so far, anyway. Maybe the next one I can gather everyone into the parlor with a tray of dog biscuits and see whether anybody jumps.
Just shout sit and see who goes for the floor.
I hear there's a butcher down at the market with a really good deal on pork.
Amazing. Yeah, this is Inga has been posting questions interesting questions in private chat. So, and this is
Well,
weird.
Constance is not in the room, right? 'Cause she's off reading somewhere else. So
This is true.
Also, I don't think Constance would look at this kind of stuff. But this is pure
what
Inga
a
curiosity.
gay way of playing the game, Inga.
Wow. Okay.
What kind of skin is it, Bonneville? Do you think it's maybe a hairy leg, a thin, delicate skin? Is it a calloused bit of foot, a chunk of earlobe?
Constance asking what chunks of earlobe, honestly.
You would guess it's some. Without wanting to kind of escape the question, it's something that's reasonably nondescript. So arm or like body, it's not like. Yes, go on, Justin.
Sorry, no, you finished. I'm just interrupting.
It's not very obviously sort of male or female in that it's not incredibly hairy or anything like that. Yes, go on, Justin.
In like a Sherlockian, absolutely anachronistic medical approach, can I make a medicine roll to see if I can divine, I don't know, some kind of medical bullshit?
Sure. Yeah.
This person worked in the factory because you can see the ink stains on the.
Have at it.
Right. I am rolling. I'm fairly sure that I roll 6 dice for medicine, which I think puts me in the sweet spot for successes. And unfortunately,
6 successes, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, unfortunately, none. No successes.
Okay.
I look at it and go, and then put it back down.
Just say something clever like, yes, it definitely dermis.
Yeah.
Dear, oh dear.
Okay. Yes.
Well then.
I think Land of Eam is leaking. Anyway.
Well, that didn't demystify anything. Do we want to discuss the elephant in the room? I've had some time to think after being shocked silent last
Shall we
evening.
quickly jump to Constance? Inga, what were you looking for in the library?
I was just going to go try and read up about werewolves again.
Give us a learning roll.
Yeah. No successes.
Okay.
We're never going to learn anything about this thing.
Nope. With my lack of success, I might go up and have a little chat to Gladys, and if I can, maybe just have like a scene, sort of having a bit of like a goodbye and a little pray one of the last times, and maybe heal my last mental condition.
Yes, sure. Yeah, so you see that her couple of bags, she's got like a trunk and a bag that are packed. and she's sort of frantically knitting one of these jumpers that she is supposed to be making for the kids in the hospital. And as the door to the chapel swings open, she says, "Oh, Sister Constance, I may need to. I don't mean to take your things, but would I perhaps be able to borrow these needles to continue this, and I can have them sent back to the hospital once I'm."
No, they are yours, Gladys. Of course, you can take them. I'll send you off with a little packet of wool and thread and things as well.
It's very kind, thank you. I really do appreciate your help while I've been here. I really don't think I could have done it without you.
No, of course, and actually, it's been a real pleasure to have you. It's been very faith affirming for me as well to have been able to help you with this and to have seen the positive impact and something as scary as this. Thank you, Gladys.
Shall we pray together a moment, perhaps, sister?
I would love that. Yes.
Cool. She bows her head, and a couple of minutes passes. And then are you heading down once you've kind of done that?
Yeah, I guess so. But probably not in too much of a rush. But, I didn't find anything.
Yeah. But yeah, you can heal your condition. Sorry, back to the parlor.
What I want to know, B, is are you trying to be clever with this?
I was trying to ensure that at least one of us made it out of the sewers.
Well, I don't have any intention of talking to it.
That's your decision then. All right. Then I'll talk to it and see if I can come to an accord.
Be careful when you're talking to it. It might not be happy with what it wants to hear. It doesn't behave well when it's not happy.
No, I can imagine that.
And I don't know if talking to it's going to solve any of the problems of it hanging around and obsessing over Gale.
Probably not. But it's the next thing to try.
What are we going to do about it then, though? Didn't someone say something about tricking? Nothing else has worked.
I might appear now then, if that's
Yep.
good. I'm sorry, Miss Bonneville. I don't think I've had much joy with those books this morning. I don't know what's. I'm sorry, things got a little heated earlier, B. But there's been one thing that's been on my mind that I would like to. Well, this ritual that I tried which required some knowledge of the fairy pathways. If you've been speaking to this thing, do you know where it's come in from? Do you know what its pathway is?
I might do. I don't know for certain, but I've got an idea.
And you didn't mention this when I said that the ritual didn't seem to have succeeded.
No. Why would I? If I remember right, then right before you did that ritual, we had agreed that we weren't going to immediately try and evict it. That whatever ritual this was going to be, well, at least considered.
I don't remember making any such agreement, but if we want to peaceably get rid of this thing, I don't think keeping secrets like this is very helpful.
Probably not. Sister, I don't like the idea of kicking someone or something out of the home. And I don't know, but I think that fairy might have been there before we were. So
I thought it followed Mosling here.
possibly. I think when I opened up the weapons corridor, and I said I saw something in there, I think that might have been it.
But if it hadn't,
What makes you think it was living here beforehand? What makes you as opposed to just having followed Mosling here and you found it when you opened that room?
Because if it were following Mosling, why would it be hiding behind a locked door that Mosling never had been in?
well, Gail, had you ever seen it before you came here? Simple question, surely.
Well, I mean, I've encountered fairies before, but maybe it was the same one, maybe it wasn't.
I see.
Although it is behaving differently from the ones I've encountered before.
How
How
did
so?
the
In what way is it behaving differently?
Well, in that it is trying to engage rather than immediately jumping to its more sinister intentions. I think that it's even more devious for doing so. Less honest. We all know what it's going to get at eventually.
What's that?
Probably something similar to what happened to you.
Hmm.
Feast on me, and then I'll be out of action for another few weeks or months.
But say it is, or say it didn't follow you. That begs an even odder question, be that why would it be so interested in Mosling only?
And even if it was here beforehand, if it's dangerous like this, do we want it in here regardless of who was in that room first?
I do see B's point about if it was here beforehand, we are arguably coming in and kicking it out.
I think we, for better or worse, I think we live with these creatures all around us. I don't necessarily think we can always push them away and create a space with that free of them entirely. So I do wonder whether we need to evaluate other approaches. Mosling, this is going to sound strange. If I may, do you have some item that is personal to you that I can borrow briefly? I wish to think. It might help me anchor my thoughts.
Certainly. I reach inside a pocket and pull out this strange music box from the night before and pass it over to Bonneville.
Definitely looking at Bonneville kind of oddly.
Thank you. Then I will, if I may, take your leave for a few minutes. This is something I'm doing by myself. I'm not going to engage
Cool.
with the fairies hall. I wish to think for a while, and I will leave the room. head up to mine.
I do find it refreshing that Bonneville asks me before doing things.
I think Huck's actively
I-
chuckles.
I would very much like to try this ritual again. That is my opinion on how we deal with this creature. I obviously can't do that if people know where these pathways are and are not going to reveal this information. It is in your hands, B. If you that is how I wish to be involved. If there's anything else, I am frankly not convinced, and I'm not sure that I have a much part to play in talking or whatever.
You
Negotiating.
You must acknowledge, though, Sister Constance, Bonneville's point that these creatures are part of the world. Our job is not to remove them entirely from the world. Some things, fair, need to die. That sea monster, that was just killing people. But in many cases, they're there and we can't get rid of them. So finding out how to live with them.
I don't think we have a common viewpoint on this at all, Mr. Huxley. I think these things are evil in nature. I think they are here because this has become a godless land. These things are not present in consecrated places. That my chapel has not been. This is the way that we fight these things. I don't believe that this is the natural way that we coexist. I think these things we absolutely can and should be creating safe spaces. Mosling should not have to live in fear that he's going to be attacked by this creature.
I see. Well, I
We ought
agree
to
with you on the
protect
last
him.
point, at the very least. Mosling, you're not talking to it. That's fine. That makes sense. B, are you going to go talk to it and tell it that?
I'll talk to it.
Are you going to make sure, or at least do the best you can, that it doesn't bother Mosling? Because he doesn't want to be bothered, and you can explain that to it. And if it won't listen, then we're going to have to kick it out.
The question that I want to know the answer to is would Mosling and Sister Constance be happy for this fairy to live here if it stayed away from either of them? Is the problem that the fairy's in the house, or is the problem that the fairy is bothering you?
I will look to Mosling before I answer.
I think that I am willing to compromise, but I don't want to see it, if at all possible. But if it lives in a space, I suppose I can't avoid seeing it. I agree. These creatures live in a space, and if there are clearly defined rules for how we conduct ourselves around each other, then I can live with this thing in the house. But again, I'd rather not see it.
We already know what Constance's view is on this.
It's not even a question for me about where it lives and things like that. This fundamentally comes down to, can I trust this thing? How could I possibly?
If we can believe it to no longer bewitch, to suck no blood, and yes,
How can you
to
trust
avoid my
a
room.
creature that can mess with your mind that it will not and has not messed with your mind? I just don't understand how anyone could ever possibly trust that. It's beyond my comprehension.
But if you would like to try to do that, then I think that is worth an attempt.
I will go and speak with it. You're on mute, Jonny.
Steve, let's deal with your insight. So I've just looked it up, but do you want to remind everybody else of your insight that you rolled?
Yes. So back in the tunnels, when I gained a mental critical injury, I rolled on that table and I got the critical injury, which is invaded by other people's emotions. So that provides what's called an insight in the system, which essentially, until the end of this adventure, and possibly beyond, we'll see, I get special abilities potentially that might help out. That can be just an increased skill roll and observation, but it can be other things as well. The thing that I'm trying to do is to have a vision, essentially, have a supernatural experience or a prophetic vision or an intuitive understanding of a problem. And this provides a clue you need to solve the mystery. The GM sets the scene and gives you a clue. In some cases, the insight can't be used in this way. The GM decides. So essentially, what I'm trying to do, I'm going to go with Mosling's music box. There's been a lot of conflict, a lot of between us, and also between Vaesen and us and the human world. And I'm tired of the cost that is ramping up, and I'm kind of concerned that if we keep approaching things in the same way, that this cost we'll have to keep paying it. There is always going to be blood, and I want to minimize that. So I'm trying to sort of put my mind into the space of hold Mosling in my thoughts and try and figure out how we can resolve this conflict without either having to banish the thing or without having to make unwanted promises, just to try and find a way that we can live together without this constant friction.
Cool. So just for the people watching and the other players, I suppose the mechanics of, there are 4 things that you can use an insight for. So the one that Steve wants to use is vision, I believe, Steve, which is you have a supernatural experience, a prophetic vision, or an intuitive understanding of a problem. This provides a clue you need to solve the mystery. The games master sets the scene and gives you a clue. In some cases, the insight cannot be used this way. The games master decides. But the actual name of the insight is absolute empathy. So I think in this case, it makes perfect sense that this is how.
I do think it was kind of fitting. Yeah.
And you're looking for a way to resolve all the tension, essentially.
Essentially, yes. I don't like us having. We haven't really lied to the fairy yet, but there's just, I want to avoid unpleasantness, and I suspect even if we attempted to banish the thing, I suspect that wouldn't be the end of it. I suspect there could be repercussions. So yeah. Okay, so I think Henry sits and thinks about this for a while, and nobody. So there are a couple of differing viewpoints with regards to the fairy, but so there's nobody who desperately wants it to stay, as like actively wants it to stay. B feels bad about the thought of it being kicked out. She doesn't like that idea of anyone or anything being ejected from where it lives, where its home is. Some people do actively want it to leave. And obviously therein lies the friction within the group. So trying to get down the middle of that, you suppose that if this thing were to leave of its own accord, everyone would be fine with that. Henry doesn't know about the pathway, does he? I don't think I do. No.
So all that you're aware of is that this thing is in the house. It seems to have taken a liking to Mosling, and that it has a little home in the cupboard, and that it started off in the weapons corridor. Yeah. Okay. You do wonder that you haven't spoken to Rupert, Eleanor, or even Hawkins about this, I don't think, to any great degree. Rupert and Eleanor you haven't seen in a little while, but Hawkins is still in the house. So that's just one additional avenue of things that you could, and Hawkins has been around this stuff for you don't know how long, and actually, you don't ever consult him really as a group, but there may be some bits of knowledge that he has that you aren't aware of. So yeah, that's kind of what you come away with, is if this thing would leave willingly, nobody would have a problem, because the tension lies actually with not wanting to actively kick it out rather than wanting it to be there. So it's not quite as it's not as extreme as that. It's kind of there instead of there. So you think maybe that's where you can, maybe try and figure out how to get it to willingly go.
Okay. Okay. A vague idea has just surfaced.
Okay, let's jump back to B going to chat to the fairy, I think.
I think I will leave the room because the discussion is over. But I would like to hear Henry's insight. And he did seem to be going off to contemplate things deeply.
That makes sense. I was also going to follow you when you left the room for a quick chat, which might happen first, presumably before that. Actually, it'd be interesting to hear Henry come into this conversation. I think as we've left and got enough of it, I'm not making it apparent that I'm following you for the chat. I just wanted a quick word on the way out. As we leave and we're a distance away from the other room, I will say fairly quietly. So it's, I guess it's no surprise, but it's becoming apparent that Constance's viewpoint ain't going to shift, is it? All these things need to be destroyed and are evil abominations upon this world and all that.
It's an opinion.
Yeah, well, it's not one we share, is it?
No.
To be honest, from some of my experiences, she's flat out wrong. She's destroying some damn good creatures. Damn good things that have helped me out in the past.
I think sometimes people like Constance like to think that their viewpoint is the oldest one there is. That it goes back so far. They don't like entertaining that there was something here before them.
I'll gently pull the small cross I've got across my neck from my head and just finger it between my finger and thumb for a moment, looking at it. And then go, yeah, I suppose so. Just doesn't really seem a way out of that. Can't think of her really changing her mind anytime soon. This ain't going to get easier, you know. Sure, this fairy I'm not a big fan of, to be honest. I quite like to see the damn thing kicked out. It wasn't fun what it did to me. But I don't want to see it destroyed. If it was up to her, she would have killed those pixies. Practically just children. Who knows what else she's going to do next time we run across something that's innocent. This could get worse.
Just out of interest, how far away from the room are you having this conversation?
I made a point to have a quiet conversation at a distance.
Okay.
It's possible Constance has wandered out, to be fair, you know.
We've got to stop her. Or anything like that.
Yeah. No, it's possible. Bonneville might run into us, but I've made sure to be a distance away from the other room.
I'm going to be honest, Hux. I think Constance is the main reason I've stuck around.
I see your point. My camera has died again.
I can't see you.
Goddamn camera. Why? I touched my laptop once again.
Oh, that's the
Or
funniest
camera,
thing.
if you will.
Stop touching
Those
it.
damn
I'm sorry.
selfies.
It's right in front of me. It's difficult to avoid touching. The opportune moment, Hux just disappears into ether in front of me.
No, yeah, it's more a cliffhanger.
Yeah, I think I nod and go, yeah, that is a good point. We can do some good between us. Constance does bring good things to us as well. She's helped us out in more ways than one.
She's got her heart in the right place.
She does. Just have to
And
keep it in mind, I suppose.
it seems like sometimes her methods do work.
I suppose she's not outright saying here we're evil for trying to keep the thing here. So
Not yet. Not out loud. That's fine. I've had
Yeah.
people call me evil before.
So have I. You're right. You go talk to it. I'll slap you on the back.
I'm waiting around for Henry.
Oh, yeah. I wonder what he's up to. He had a funny look on his face, didn't he? I am way too nosy to not also follow you.
Steve, I'll say that you were gone for 15 minutes, probably.
Sounds good. Yeah, so eventually, having contemplated deeply, I will emerge, and I guess might run into people. Certainly, if people are looking for me, then they'll find me. But otherwise, I would be, probably heading off to find Hawkins. Got the name right?
Yes.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah, he's in the kitchen preparing some stuff for lunch.
Hawkins, we really should have asked you this before. There's
Don't worry. Plenty of food in. Whatever you need.
Oh no, it's not about food. It's something else. You've been here a while, I presume,
Yes.
and you know far more of the house's secrets than we do. We've perhaps been rather presumptuous in our use of the place.
Something specific, Mr. Bonneville, or?
Well, the house has residents. We know that. We saw one on our first day here. We believe there's. I don't know whether people have mentioned to you. We believe there is at least another one, a fairy, living in the what's now the weapons corridor.
Yes, but I think had B mentioned it to Hawkins at some point. I think
so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. I've been aware of that, sir.
Did you happen to know about this fairy before we arrived? Are you?
No. My understanding is that perhaps it was in that room when it was opened. There are. Well, I suppose. Could have. Could have been in there for quite some time, actually. There are rooms in the house, doors in the house with wards.
Oh.
So the entrances and exits to the building, the bedrooms, and, well, it seems that the architects saw fit to also protect the weapons corridor, which seems fair enough. I'm guessing perhaps that is the case, and this thing may have been in there for goodness knows. Hopefully not since the house was built. But that's possible. That may be why it was in there specifically.
We are still very inexperienced, I would say, with dealing with Vaesen. How do you view creatures within this house? I know that or at least I suspect that that the one we saw originally was not necessarily a cherished guest, but creatures that were looked upon with at least some degree of respect. Is that the same for all creatures, or would you consider this fairy to be a guest or an unwanted occupant? The reason I ask, I should say, is my colleagues, we are finding ourselves in something of a disagreement as to how to deal with this creature. Some of us are wishing to live and let live, I guess you could say. Others are rather more keen on evicting the creature forthwith. I believe if we don't handle this situation with some delicacy, there could be repercussions that would be rather unpleasant.
On the understanding, so that I'm obviously not a fully fledged member of the society, my understanding is, yes, there are some, as with people, there are some of these creatures who can be of benefit to a house, a family, what have you, any kind of group or home, and there are others who can be a negative to those things, and perhaps others who are neither here nor there. My
Smirking? What's going on?
My understanding of this creature thus far is, I mean, I'm not aware of it having caused any particular mischief. And what is it, 10 days since it was loosed? Something similar?
I guess so. It can't be very long.
I could imagine there are some creatures that would have caused havoc in the minutes following what could be a century-long captivity. Perhaps viewing us as its captors. Who knows what situation this thing thought it was in? But I do feel the fact that there's been little to no effect by it being here following its release, that perhaps it could be left.
Yes. Well, I suppose we have to. As is often the case, I think the complexity here lies in the human world, not the one of the Vaesen. Thank you. That has been helpful.
I'm sure that Sir Rupert or Eleanor could be more help than me, sir. But
do you know when they're likely to be back?
I'm afraid not. They went away a few days ago on some kind of society business, and haven't heard from them since. Not unusual, but
well, perhaps we can persuade people to wait a little longer. I will. Yes, thank you. I will do my best to smooth things over for now, and I will head off.
Cool. Has B gone to the cupboard, or were you waiting to talk to Bonneville before you went? Still,
I'm loitering around to talk to Bonneville.
Cool. He reappears from the kitchen.
Ah, B, have you spoken to it yet?
Not yet. You look like you might have something on your mind.
I do. I'm concerned that we're just not handling this with either sensitivity or a decent amount of knowledge. I was trying to I don't know, clear my mind and take a fresh perspective. One thing that is clear to me is I've just been speaking to Hawkins. We have been, certainly from my part, I very new to all of this. We haven't asked the Rupert and Eleanor. We hadn't asked Hawkins about this. It is entirely possible. Hawkins says that this fairy has been in the house for years, possibly trapped behind sealed, warded doors that have remained like that for well, I don't know how long.
Poor creature.
Yes. And yes, as Hawkins said, if it did want to cause mayhem, there are Vaesen that have acted far faster than it has. I did, however, I would like, I don't know whether our colleagues will be amenable, but if we can at least delay things until Rupert and Eleanor return and we can ask their advice, it would seem brash to act without their input. But I did come up with one other potential idea. If it has to leave, if we are unable to live with it here, then perhaps we can suggest that it might have a more comfortable existence with Lady Esme and Gladys. They already have, I guess they have pixies to deal with, but perhaps they would be, amenable to share their lives with something else that is magical in nature.
I could see Lady Esme running her own little Vaesen orphanage. You're right, though. We've been arguing about this as if it's our guest, but it's not. It's Rupert and Eleanor's.
And you make a very good point. I was lurking in the background. that it's, of all of the Vaesen we've run into, it's the only one that hasn't really done any significant harm. In fact, it's nearly only done good. Sure, it spooked me a bit. It was very unsettling, to be honest, but I guess I was trying to get it. And if what Hawkins suggests is true, it's also been one of the, I don't know, most slighted, been in one of the worst positions, and it still didn't do very much, did it?
I've been thinking about that, actually, Hux, when it attacked you. I think I might have given the wrong impression when I say that I've been talking to it. Because I've been talking to it, and it snores. It makes noises, but I've never heard it actually talk.
Oh. So the only one of it's ever talked to is Gale.
Did it even talk to Gale?
Oh, it didn't. Sorry. I thought, he talked to it. That's right.
I think the only one here who's properly talked with it is you.
I wouldn't say it talked to me, but I guess it communicated something. Well, either way, I agree, Bonneville, that we shouldn't maybe act until we found out what good old brain. What's his name?
Rupert and Eleanor?
Rupert, thanks. Rupert and Eleanor, think. But you better go talk to it beforehand either way. Otherwise, it might jump on Gale again.
Yeah, you're right. All right.
Should we come with you, or would that?
I think it's easily spooked.
Yeah, I think it is. It's all right. I'll go. There was something Constance said that made a lot of sense, though. That we don't really benefit from all keeping secrets from each other. I've been thinking that I don't think it will. I think it's safe. I think it's just a kid. But just in case it does turn, I'm thinking maybe I should tell the two of you about the pathways. Just in case someone needs to do something about it.
What are they?
There's right outside the weapons corridor, there's a plant pot on top of a stool.
It's in the weapons corridor.
It's in the weapons
inside.
corridor.
Yeah.
In the
Yeah,
weapons
it was
corridor.
inside. Yeah.
There's a plant pot on top of a stool. It wasn't there last week. It's hiding a patch of dirt. I think that's it.
What is
Brian
it?
Hawkins bloody mad.
What pathway? Is it get places from there or something?
No idea. Just Hawkins found a patch of dirt. Couldn't sweep it up. That's
Well,
it.
I really hope it doesn't come to that.
So do I.
Do you want anyone to come? Keep an eye nearby if something goes up with your chat, or you think you'll be all right?
Nah, I'll be fine. I'll be back down in a bit.
I'll wander back to the sitting room then, I think.
I will return and drop off the music box again.
Cool. So at the ferry cupboard,
I will knock on the door.
it is closed. It is closed when you get there. Yeah.
Good. I will knock on the door as it's my usual. I will put my usual offering next to the door. I think it's like a. Would Satsumas be ridiculously expensive at this point in time?
I don't know.
Let's say it's another apple.
Yeah, fine.
I'll put an apple down. I wanted to thank you for what you did last night. And I think not everyone would be likely to say it, but I think it was appreciated. But I'm sorry to tell you this, but I don't know if he'll change his mind, but I don't think Mosling is ready to talk.
The door starts to creak open. And you see this little creature kind of steps out. I say steps out. It's not actually walking on the ground. It's kind of floating and stepping to where as the door kind of creaks open. And it looks sad. And then it reaches into a small pouch and pulls out some dust and is clearly about to blow it at you.
I will brace myself on the floor and nod.
Okay. Yeah. And firstly, you see the vision that Hook saw of basically this creature sort of being best friends with Mosling, essentially. sort of skipping together through, fields of wildflowers and such. But then the rest of you also join, and you're all kind of skipping through this field. And then you get a vision of a clock going backwards quite quickly, like this. And then you see a large, or at least in the perspective that you are seeing it through, a large sort of underground city with numerous pathways leading out of it, sort of trodden mud pathways. And then you see you are sort of traveling along one of them. And then you see it's almost like a time lapse from the inside of a building being built. And then darkness. And then the clock spins forward really fast, like this. And then you shake and you're back.
Have you been trapped here since the house was built? And is that you want to be friends with us because we released you? Just because you want to be friends? That's very sweet of you. I would say, though, that you deserve to be friends with people who want to be friends with you. And that sometimes with some people, you can't convince them.
It reaches into its thing and gets some more dust and kind of goes, you know that it's not saying that it wants to do it. It's like, as you've said, you can't convince them. It's kind of going,
I don't think that'll convince them either.
puts it back in the pouch.
For what it's worth, you don't have to stay here if you don't want to stay in the house. But I'm not going to make you leave. And there are others in the house who could probably be friendly. But I think Mosling and Sister Constance might not be two of them.
It turns a little and kind of looks at you and sort of half opens and closes the door and then nods towards the front door and goes,
You don't want to go?
kind of does it more vigorously and goes, did Henry tell B that some of the doors might be warded?
Yes.
Yeah, you twig.
Oh. You can't go. Would you like to? Well, how about we'll see if we can find a way to let you out without letting everything else in. And in the meantime, I'll have Hawkins bring you up 2 meals a day. Good. And remember, don't let Mosling or Constance see you.
It takes a couple more steps forwards and puts its hand on its heart, and then reaches up and puts its hand on B's heart, and then turns around and closes the door behind it.
Did it take the apple with it?
It shut the door and then opened the door, and the hand reaches out and takes the apple and pulls it in.
Right. I leave the weapons corridor and pull the door slightly closed behind me.
Cool. You imagine it's literally as simple as if the door is open, it can get out, but it can't deal because it went into Mosling's room when Hux had opened the door.
Oh.
Why isn't that door warded against Hux?
Nothing can be warded against Hux.
I was going to say, isn't that the point of the lock on the door? But yeah, nothing's really truly warded against her.
Not if he wants to get in somewhere really bad.
Right. I go back to the dining room where I assume people still are.
I think Hux has now fallen
Yeah.
asleep in front of the fire and is snoring away quietly. It was a late night last
Like
night.
10 a.m.
It was a late night last night.
That's true. You might also still be slightly drunk.
But that's not different from any other day.
Harsh.
Got me there.
Right. Looks like we've got an agreement.
Well, I'm surprised, but good.
It'll stay out of your way, or at least try, and yours, sister. And in return, well, it doesn't really know if it wants to leave yet. So,
How would it leave? Did you discuss those terms?
Henry thinks that, or Hawkins thinks that some of the doors have wards on them. So, and I think from talking to it that the house might have been built around it. So
How
it
old
could
is
be a
this place? Must be at least 100 years old.
If it's been trapped in that that corridor for, well, do we know when it was last opened?
Hawkins might have an idea, but
You don't know for definite, but it was pretty tough to get it open. So
yeah, it was stiff and dusty.
So you didn't need. We didn't do anything to unward the door. There was no ritual or anything, was there?
I think it's just as simple as we can open the doors and they can't. Which means, Mosling, if you keep your bedroom door shut, it'll leave you alone.
Bedrooms are as well. Good to know.
We've also talked that maybe before we make any decisions for definite, we should at least get Rupert and Eleanor's perspective, as it is their house after all.
That's sensible.
I wonder if they know about these wards. They never told us, did they?
I think they might have mentioned that the house was protected in some way, but I don't think we knew the specifics.
Well, my thoughts are that if it has agreed to behave, then much like the Spiritus, we have Vaesen here from time to time, and we can stay. But I will not be sleeping in the house until it is gone. I shall stay in my residence in London and come to you in the morning and leave in the evening.
I'm looking at Constance.
Where is it currently behind a warded door?
No, the cupboard's on the outside of it's outside the weapons corridor, so it's not. Unless, no, the cupboard door, I was going to say unless you thought the cupboard door was, but you've seen it open and close the door, so you know that it's not. Yeah.
No. No wards between here and there. As I say, I don't think it can get into your room. Probably can't get into the chapel either.
I strongly doubt that it can. But I've said my piece on the matter. If or when you're ready to retry this ritual, you know where I am.
I don't believe we need the ritual. I think the thing was trapped here. I think we can allow it to leave. I don't think we need to resort to any form of force.
I see it more as protection than force, but as you wish.
Do we know how these wards work?
No
Something
idea.
to ask, something to ask Rupert and Eleanor, I think, the next time we see them.
So for now,
I think we should also inquire about whether, if there have been wards placed deliberately, we may want to be a bit more careful about opening them up.
Well,
I know
certainly
many
I
of you
agree
think
with
that this fairy has not been too dangerous, but perhaps it was kept behind a closed door quite deliberately, and I think we ought to be very careful about opening these things.
That is a good point. Better to know about this beforehand than afterwards.
I was just. I'm just wondering if we can find out more about these wards. I'm just wondering whether maybe Gladys's progress could have had something to do with them. And whether maybe we could install some in Lady Esme's house.
They've had the chapel installed, which I think will do a very good job, but that's a very good line of thinking. I think the more support and protection we can offer, the better. And I think that would be a very wise thing to look up.
That bug Spurtus thing came through them, didn't it? Because it came through the door. So we know it can pass through them at least once.
Well, when the doors are open.
Ah, I see what you mean. I guess the wards didn't work when closed. And it doesn't seem to go anywhere anyway.
So that's also quite an interesting point. We're not necessarily the boards aren't full protection. There may be other ways in which these things can get in and out, whether they're smuggled in on other people and if the Spurtus is in control of people, as we know they can be, I don't know whether that would. Yes, there's something there it's useful, but perhaps not something we can be complacent about.
Yeah. Like that Spurt has always found its way back to its person, but what if that person was behind a ward? Gives us some interesting questions, doesn't it?
So am I right in thinking that we've agreed that the fairy will stay out of our way until Rupert and Eleanor get back? Then we can talk to them and ask them if they would like them to stay. If they would like the fairy to leave, then we simply open the door and tell it that it's not welcome. But if they were happy for it to stay, then we stay in this impasse where we kind of try to avoid each other as best as possible, but otherwise...
I don't know. It seems to me fair that we give it the chance either way. Because it's trapped here. Maybe it won't want to leave, but I don't really want to keep it trapped deliberately. If we can find a way to let just it out.
It'd be safer to know exactly where it is if it's kept in a contained space, but I expect I'm not going to get much support in that line of thinking either.
Henry had a good idea.
Yes, if it has been trapped here with no freedom, that is one thing. Obviously, we need to ask them, and perhaps we can broach the conversation this evening. But Lady Esme and Gladys might provide the creature a more welcome home. Then it doesn't bother us, and we're no longer at loggerheads. Obviously, that depends on. It is obviously a more than an imposition, but I somehow wonder that Lady Esme might be amenable to the notion.
I'm quite certain she would be, but I do worry about Gladys. She's still at a very fragile point. She's anything that could possibly lead her astray. The Spiritus.
But she has her
I
faith,
don't like
does
this
she
fairy,
not?
but I do think the Spiritus is. Well, yes, of course, but it's not a binary thing. It's a constant commitment. It's a reaffirmation of faith. It's people can be led astray, and the different dark influences. I wonder how, if it's too early to potentially. I don't know if tempt is too strong a word, I don't think the fairy is as dangerous in quite the same malicious ways as that Spiritus obviously was, but I do worry about too many influences.
I agree with the sister. I think in this case, there's already enough going on there with them pixies as well. It does seem a bit overly risky. We know that Spiritus is still a danger, potentially. Throw this in there as well. We're not
True.
keeping an eye on them. It's all on Lady Esme to keep an eye on all this. That seems a lot.
My
I'm
only
sure
thought
maybe
was
after
that
maybe after some time when they're more settled, and it's still such early days.
I'm sure she'd say yes, but I don't think we should propose it just yet. We can ask their opinion if you want about the fairy, though.
my only thought was if that creature has been trapped, isolated, alone for many years, I can understand why something might want to reach out and make a connection. So I can't blame it for what it's done. I think it's entirely reasonable. I just think we can do a better job of helping it. I think I think we can find a way where all of us can benefit. That's my belief.
I agree. I think give it the choice of what it wants to do. After it keeps to its promise.
Agreed.
Well, what about these wards and your wolf creature? I suppose, presumably, we might be a little more reassured about protection within the house, but it obviously didn't stop it coming into the courtyard or trying to, or something last night.
No, but I suppose it didn't come into the house, so a small amount of reassurance, I guess. Yes, well, I don't know where we go from here. B, you've been able to set up some traps, I guess. The only plan that sprang to mind was simply for me to stand out there and I guess you can be nearby and we can see what happens. But it's not a very sophisticated notion. My only thought is that if there needs to be some proximity to the full moon for this creature to be more active, then I guess we don't have too much time. But
it's still out mostly, isn't it? We could do it tonight if you want to.
Well, we have the dinner with Lady Esme first, but maybe we'll see. I guess maybe after that, if we're still in a fit state.
Dinner, pudding, werewolf, Saturday evening.
So I think we can make sure we don't drink too much before werewolf activities this evening. I'll look pointedly at Hux.
I think you're fine. You need to drink more before werewolf activities.
There is a knock at the door, and Hawkins goes to answer while you're having a conversation. And
bloody journalist.
you see that there is a man at the door, but it's not somebody that you recognise. And Hawkins kind of nods at him and closes the door and turns back around. And he's holding a telegram, which he toddles off to the kitchen with.
Well,
Interesting.
At no point does he come to talk to us at all. I guess we're kind of waiting for it.
Yeah. After a moment,
praying around the door.
Yeah, like
after a moment, you hear a smashing sound from the kitchen.
okay, that's it. Immediately
right.
rush.
Yep.
Yep. Hawkins has dropped the mug that he was drinking his tea from on the floor, and he has drained of all colour. And he sort of shakingly slides the telegram across the countertop to whoever is nearest.
I like the idea that it's me, and I look at it for a second and then slide it to someone else.
Mosling is not nearest.
Anyone else?
I'll be there then.
It is addressed to the residents of Rose House, care of Hawkins. And it says, we regret to inform you that the steamboat, and then a designation, on which Sir Rupert Merriweather and Lady Eleanor Blakely were travelling, is believed to have sunk, and all passengers are missing and sadly presumed dead. And we'll leave it there.
How big are London's dynamite supplies?
Just after that sea monster. Oh no.
Goodness.
Great.
Oof.
So that is going to be the end of this arc.
Okay. Interesting.
Oh,
Very small bits will tie up at the beginning of the next session, but that means that we get to do character XP and development points.
Oh,
as
yeah.
well.
No, we get to open up another can of worms.
Yeah.
I love
we-
admin.
we did resolve quite a few of our loose ends, actually.
Did
in
we?
this loose end arc, to be
Yes.
fair. Yeah, I mean, the Spurters is mostly done. We dealt with
I
the
don't
sea
think it's done.
monster.
I think the Spurtus is just ready, it's
Yeah, but
biding its time.
it's a while.
I
And
think
then
we stalled on a certain point of that investigation, I think.
we got a fair way through the fairy side quest.
Okay, did you participate in the session? Yes, 1
Yeah.
XP. Did you confront any Vaesen?
Yeah.
B did.
Did
B
I?
did, yeah.
B did, yeah.
Yeah.
Go on, B.
Did you identify a previously unknown Vaesen? No. Were you affected by your dark secret? I don't think anybody was this time. Did you take risks to protect other people?
B did.
Probably. I suppose
got-
accepting
got-
having the,
taking risks
the
to it,
stuff
yeah.
That was
blown.
risky.
Yeah.
Have you learned
Also,
anything?
risk going up against Constance to protect the fairy.
That's a very-
We're all risking our lives.
It's more serious, yeah. Have you learned anything? I think you all have.
Mhm.
Did you develop something? I will give you that because you're about to, presumably. And did you perform an extraordinary action? Probably not. So 3, unless you're B, who gets 5.
Mhm.
Yes.
I think it's quite fun to have the mismatch in XP depending on what people have done. You get like
Yeah.
you
And
go
it
like,
tends
"Oh,
to
yeah,
level
doesn't
out
matter.
because, like,
Yeah.
as long as I get, if you bring everybody's dark secret in, there'll be things where people do get that stuff. And yeah, I don't feel like the leveling up makes as much of a difference to this as
No.
it does in
If-
something like D&D, where it's
if
like
people are a bit
you're
mismatched,
actually
it's-
increasing the numbers. Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Okay. I need to find the development points thing now.
That was a fun session. I enjoyed that. I love our fairy. I love our fairy dilemma. I love Inga constantly being like hard line this, and in the background you're just like
Constance being.
No, I love
Yes.
Inga crying in the background while Constance is
Inga just wants to give the fairy a hug, I'm sure.
Just in general, Inga and Constance have very little real like closeness in terms of world views and general kind of sensitivities. I don't know, like just for the record. Sometimes I really enjoy massively disagreeing with my character. That's fun.
So, did you play at least one scene at the headquarters? Yes, you actually had quite a lot in this arc. Did you encounter a new type of Vaesen? Yes.
Yep.
Did you visit a place of magic?
The sewers, magical. Waste.
I mean,
feces
B
is turned
kind
into...
of B kind of did.
Did I? I saw
With the
a place of-
pathway.
Oh yeah, okay.
I'm going to say no.
Was this lady's house that we broke into a place of magic? Maybe
that's what I was going to say.
Theatres are magical.
Theatres are magical. That's always
theatres are magical. What are you going to hit to denigrate the arts?
You were subjected to magic, so that's another one. Did you bring occult books or other important items back to headquarters? I don't.
Does dynamite count?
Pork.
Oh, we did save a piece of skin, didn't we? From the
I saved a scale from the sea monster, but I don't think that counts.
Sea monster.
Okay.
I don't know. It's up to you, Johnny.
Did you make important contacts? I would say that you have made
got the sailors.
Yeah.
We
somebody to buy dynamite from.
Dynamite
that
seller,
captain was nice. That captain was nice.
The captain was great. Hope he comes back.
Yeah.
Hope he doesn't come back. That would be really bad.
Was the mystery particularly difficult and epic? I'm going to say yes, because I think the sea serpent was. Yeah. And did you solve the mystery? Yes. So 6. I don't know if you had any outstanding on the sheet from before.
I've got it written down. 2 dev points left.
Okay, so you've got 8 now.
That's a lot of points.
I'm glad someone was keeping track.
Think.
So we can deal with this offline and discuss it at the beginning of the next session. We did XP, didn't we? Yes, we did XP. So again, if you note down whatever you want to spend them on, and we can discuss that at the start of the next one as well. I'll just do stuff before we have a chat, but if anybody has questions or comments from the session, please put those in the chat. I'll do the promo stuff. So Wednesday night, Simba Room. Thursday night, World of Darkness. Sunday, I'm going to be running my Bat Out of Hell game, which is going to be loads of fun. And then next Monday, I don't think we're going to play, but we're going to try and organise like a discussion-y, roundtable-y thing to fill the gap. So yeah, and links to everything, social media, our Discord, which is join and contact to us, and our Patreon and our YouTube, which has probably billions of hours of TTRPG streams on now.
There is one thing I need to do at the end of this adventure is figure out whether but I'll need to remember how to do that. So hang on, and I'll go off and read. So
yeah, fine.
Carry on.
I think it will be right here where I am.
Don't you roll a number of dice equal to the value of the damage or something? Or don't listen to me.
Chapter 6, page
88, apparently.
Who's going to win? Okay, if you have gained, you make a mental recovery roll. The number of dice used for the mental defect, you roll a number of dice equal to your combined logic and empathy. Each success heals a defect or causes an insight to become permanent.
So, logic and empathy. So, my logic is, my logic is 5, my empathy is 4.
Oh, nice. So that's, again, -1 successes.
Well, we'll see. 5 plus 4 dice. I got 2 successes, so I guess that means the insight becomes
Cool.
It's permanent.
Nice. Excellent.
So that gives you the option for observation +4, doesn't it? Which is
Yes.
That's
yes.
crazy.
So you can basically use the insight once per session.
Yeah, we run fairly short sessions, so I'm not going to be popping it off every session. I don't think. I say that now. We'll see.
I quite like the control my own destiny thing. You can use your insight to control what an NPC is thinking or doing.
Well, the other one as well is I'm not the right page. The you can show someone else. You can give someone else a sight temporarily, open their eyes. So part of me was kind of thinking that we might meet up with Albert Bradley, get a nice big scary Vaesen nearby, and just show it to him.
That would be
That could be fun.
That would be great.
Oh yes, get that.
That feels unethical.
Yeah, and
He's a journalist.
He deserves it.
And then we could pretend that we couldn't see it and that he's mad.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, carry on.
Constance is on B's side now. Finally, the thing that brought us together.
I just think that's cool for the Vaesen.
Or what if we just dress up
Different
as a
journey,
Vaesen?
same destination.
What if we just put like an elf hat on Hux and pretend that he's an elf?
Truly horror.
Drunk elf.
Or make a costume like a giant sea serpent.
I must admit, I think you'll be a more risk than he will in this context.
I imagine trying to put like a costume on Hux when he doesn't want to is like trying to dress a cat.
A very large cat is probably swinging a bottle around. Yeah.
Cool. Are there any questions or comments? And are there any thanks, John? Let's check. Do we need to thank anyone?
There is a thank you to T.O. Heartless.
Cool. Thank you. Is that a sub? Or like
That is a follow.
Follow. Cool. Thank you.
And
Thank
there's
you
a
very much.
thank you to Jonny, our GM, for all of this wonderful entertainment.
Heart-wrenching.
And to Justin for really putting in the hours today to get to the stream.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Couldn't miss the stream.
Thanks, Justin. That's very
It's all right.
appreciated.
We have.
Yeah, questions or comments? What's the? Oh God.
See,
I'll
if
come
I
back to
know
you.
my fairy lore, then we're not going to find out the fairy's name.
Yeah.
We'll
Or
get
maybe
can
it's like,
tell
what
you-
is
I
this,
can
like,
tell
not
you
its
it
true
as-
name. Or
yeah, exactly. We'll
as
get
players.
more, or we might get increasingly more interesting names as we go on.
something.
Harold.
Love it. But that does happen, right? Like, even if the kind of concept of like true name things, there's often still like a name that they go by. It's just not their like
Like the
true
Rumpelstiltskin
name that
stuff.
has mystical
Yeah.
power, right?
Yeah,
So it was very rude of you not to ask, really, B, is what I'm saying.
that's fair. I just can't imagine the sort of psychic charades that learning someone else's name might take. I might just call it Apple. It likes apples.
Yeah, that's a pretty good.
Oh,
name.
that's really
I
cute.
like that.
Says Constance.
And it's Rossum the core.
It definitely says Inga.
Defeated by the
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Oh,
Steve.
I can resist.
I was just going to say, I love the dissonance between, adorable
Yeah.
fair. It's been very fun and nice and interesting, kind of playing the conflicts in the group, and I think that's worked quite
It's
well.
pretty good.
It's definitely been fun.
Where was all this objection when we were asking, how can we take this sea serpent out of its natural environment? It just lives
Well,
here.
something about the murdering.
Part of that is definitely
We are
driving,
Victorians.
part of that is definitely driving Henry's, still picking bits of sea serpent out of his sports jacket. I don't know.
I did spend an amount of time trying to figure out how we could lure it back to sea, but
Yeah, that was definitely a thing for a
That's
bit.
fair.
yeah.
Yeah, I suppose all of this has been happening. There's like kind of like very everyday stuff while Henry's been confronting the fact that he nearly died just like last
Yep.
night.
Let's
We're
have
just
a
like,
dinner
yo,
party.
I don't like this fairy. Oh, let's see if it lives to us. Henry's just there with like a bottle of whiskey and just like,
1,000 yards.
and then the werewolf and just like the werewolf is like, like this is even the worst thing that happened to
Sat
me
in the
today.
seat opposite with a cigar. You know.
Did basically have a heart attack yesterday.
And then get stalked by a werewolf still after that. Like,
Yeah,
it is
exactly.
just awful. It really, really is.
Poor Henry. Oh,
Poor
Sorry,
Henry.
Steve. Henry's having a horrible day.
That's great from my
Did
point
you-
of view.
did you get the reference for this?
I don't remember what it's from.
I didn't.
The werewolf
Wait.
records only go back to 3 years ago when the previous werewolf book was
Is
mysteriously
it
torn
a
apart.
Terry Pratchett thing?
No, it's Simpsons. It's the
Oh.
what is it? The Hurricane records only go back to 85 when the Hall of Records was
Oh.
mysteriously blown away.
Yes.
Oh.
Brilliant. I really like this one.
Constance is the real problem. The only solution is dynamite.
Some things we only solve with dynamite.
I feel like we should also share Justin's excellent backstage comment, which was why I started.
none of
trolling,
those.
Yeah.
which was where Steve had said that we'd been having some sort of a clash, and Justin said, "We're having a clash. Should it stay or should it go now?" And that was enough for me. That was enough. That's very good.
Ridiculous. It wasn't that
Brilliant.
good.
I would say
Everything,
the
John?
kind of like
That's everything.
was it the like I don't know what, like, armchair psychologisting, the psychoanalyzing of Constance was really entertaining to see, like, when you guys were chatting afterwards, like, this is what's going on in her hair, like, this is, and like when you said about, like, it's why you're sticking around, like, keep an eye out and things like that, it was very interesting.
Oh, it's fun. I had to do it. I was just like, Hux is really needs to talk to someone to tell him we aren't kicking Constance out now. I'm glad I got B provided that, because I think Hux was half expecting B to go, no, we need to get rid of her.
I mean, fair enough though. If you had.
Yeah. My motivation, like, I kind of err on the like being, I don't know what the word would be, pragmatic if something's killing you. My motivation is super pro Vaesen, so it's like this is quite a counter to Hux's perspective on things. So.
Here's a question from me. How are you finding playing Constance?
Like I say, kind of interesting because like I think it's definitely like that. Like, I mean, obviously, like, I know more about Constance and why she's like this, right? So that, like, it's not like totally trivial, like, I just want to play some annoying churchy person. But there is still a bit of that, like, it's that kind of like it's fun to play the villain kind of thing of like sometimes it's nice to do the thing that's like opposite to how you think about a thing, or like, even when we talk, like, you guys were talking about the wards and like the warded doors and kind of learning some of that info, like, it's kind of interesting just being in a different headspace, because like in Constance's lens, it didn't really come up in this because we didn't get to talk about the stuff, but I was like, it immediately was just like, warded doors, it's like, that's the locked jail cell, that's not like an, oh no, we feel so bad, we've got to let it out, that means we should have kept it in and we should never have let it loose to begin with. Whereas obviously if you have a really different viewpoint, you look for the thing that, it's almost like you look for the thing that justifies the worldview that you have, which is kind of interesting when you then have a very different worldview. Because I'm like, real life, I'm way more like hippie and like, woo. I like, if this was real life, Inga would be totally pro Vaesen and be like, this is the coolest. She'd be Lady Spence, right?
Everyone wants to be Lady Spence, but few can do it.
I was going to say that's a bold.
But yes, it's kind of interesting, and it honestly, like, you guys will have to tell me if I need to like reel it in a bit, because sometimes like it feels a bit like, is this like, does it feel a bit troll-y to like
Oh no, it's
find
great.
the thing that's like the opposite viewpoint of what I actually
It completely fits
Like,
your
it's-
character. It makes total sense why
Yeah.
Constance is like that.
It's-
What I'm really curious about is the mechanical like chances of changing motivation. How is that even a thing that's considered in the game? But anyway,
Well, on
Well,
that though, it's kind of interesting because you guys were talking about like the sort of like the idea of like the faith thing, like being like the oldest thing, which I thought was really interesting because like I think it has come up. We've sort of touched on it, but only like really like offhand. Like Constance has not always been religious. Like there's definitely a bit of that kind of born again kind of evangelist kind of thing
The
with it.
evangelism with the converted.
Yeah, so there's like the faith as an abstract is an old thing and it totally makes sense like that, that's the oldest thing. But like for Constance personally, it's not the oldest thing in her history. But like, yeah, there's some interesting stuff there, I think.
there's so much backstory still.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we get a chance to, delve a little deeper. I'm hoping that. So yes, it's always interesting with a story when you have some form of conflict, that you can that there's something to push against. That's definitely been interesting and fun to play with. And I think we cover more ground like that in terms of the actual seeing the world of Vaesen. But yes, I am rather hoping. Part of me, Steve, wants to know where Constance's line is, and when she's confronted with something that challenges her beliefs, what will happen then? Where is the line? Is it impenetrable? What will happen when something potentially breaks that worldview?
I am also interested to find out.
This is why I want to go poke that Spartus investigation. Find out about the mysterious sister.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've got no idea if this will be the thing that does it, but man, it seems like a thing that could, right?
Yeah.
But also, like, we still know so little about Bee's backstory properly. Like, this is the only one. I think Bee's is the only one we haven't really had.
Nothing.
Like,
we have nothing for Bee. We don't have much for me, but like
is
nothing
still
for Bee.
quite quiet as well. But yeah, really nothing from Bee. And like there were a few like interesting little like I don't know, like they felt like small like little mentions of things that made me like, what's going on there with Bee? So like I also really want to explore that because I've really enjoyed the tension and like the kind of differing and also how it's shifted for the other players, like stuck in the middle of that because that shifted quite like there were points when Fox was like, oh yeah, fuck the fairy, it scared me. And then he's like, no, I like the fairy. It's been pretty cool.
I'm enjoying it. As I say, Hux is quite pragmatic. I don't think he's really firm on this sort of thing. It's quite fun to be like, no, I don't like that. Well, actually, no, maybe I do like that. I change my mind.
Yeah.
I'd be wrong.
So yeah, I think there's still quite a lot to explore with everyone. Constance is just a bit more overtly obnoxious.
In a good way. In a good narrative way.
It bodes
not
well
as much as Muslim.
No one wants to talk to her.
No.
Thank God.
That's just a bad way. I mean,
I hope so.
It bodes well.
Biscuit droppingly exciting.
I was still hoping for the
Got my
happy
biscuit.
Muslim.
Okay.
It bodes well.
I know.
15 minutes
I was
into the session,
I was
chat
almost
about
ready
characters
for it.
and
I
all.
think it might happen, but we'll see.
Cool. So I at least will be back next week. Some of the rest of us may be back next week. We're going to do a chatty thing. We'll sort it out. We'll figure out. If you join us on the Discord, we'll probably do some kind of questiony, polly thing on what we want to talk about. And depending on how many people from this are in it, we might talk about some Vaesen stuff, or we might talk about general TTRPG stuff, or whatever. So come join us on the Discord, and we can discuss that. The link's below the stream for that. And then we'll be back the week after, which I think is the 10th, with a new arc that may or may not involve things. And on that note, thank you very much, everybody, and we'll hopefully see you next week for a little chit chat. Bye-bye. Thanks for watching.